When people take tests, there is, there's parts of a test that you struggle with, certain concepts that you struggle with. And for me, I've noticed that this has been a regular problem for me. There's two diseases that I've really struggled to remember. I think half the reason is because it wasn't discussed this much with my education in school. Not that it wasn't discussed. I mean, it was, but um, one of them, it wasn't until the very end of my school career. And the other one, it just wasn't discussed very much. We didn't give a lot of examples. There wasn't many case studies. So these were kind of um, new grounds, if I'm being honest, especially when I took my internship. So these are two of them. I've seen them on the test regularly. Obviously, I'm not going to say what it is, but just understanding the basic concepts of these two diseases, I think could really help somebody who's getting ready to take the test. So, Prader-Willi syndrome. Several body systems are affected due to deletion or mutation of genes on chromosome 15. This deletion or mutation prevents the body from producing certain proteins that are essential for normal growth and development. So when you think of protein, you think of muscles uh, being muscle being built. You think of being able to recover from any sort of injury. That's why with pressure injuries, they increase protein needs. So when you hear Prader-Willi, you want to think of kids or infants, because that is usually when they are diagnosed with this disease. And like I was saying earlier, the disease can affect growth and development. So think of kids, think of these. I'm having the worst brain fart at the moment, but think of these symptoms. So developmental delays, short stature, or malnutrition as an infant. Also remember with malnutrition, they recommend increasing protein needs. So you have those connections. You think chromosome 15, you think Prader-Willi as a kid, and then you think protein can help with growth and development. So if they're struggling to produce enough protein, then they're going to have problems. They're going to have problems with growth and development. They're going to have problems, so they're going to have a short stature. They have problems, so there's going to be malnutrition. And they have problems, there's going to be delays in development or growth. So now let's move on to the other disease. I I honestly don't know how to pronounce this. I just call it a fancy word, and I hope I'm pronouncing it right, but I may be pronouncing this wrong. And I mean, that's really common when you're learning new material. And even though I've taken the test a couple times, you're still learning new material. No matter how many times you take the test, there's still going to be material that you may not know. So, Sjogren's syndrome is a chronic autoimmune disorder in which the body attacks the glands that produce moisture. In most cases, the most obvious damage is to the salivary gland and the glands that produce tears. Now, I got this information from a dentistry that I think had some really good insight to this disease. None of this, I need to make this clear, none of this has been copied from any of these study programs that I talk about, and they're not normally copied from the academy either. They're usually my own words or they're definitions that I've gotten online and I may have altered in some way, but typically it's just things I found online. It's not from any sort of copyright, since I'm not obviously making any money off of these videos. So when you think of Sjogren syndrome, you're going to think it's an autoimmune disorder, and you're going to think that it affects glands, and glands produce moisture. And we know that there's different glands in the body, like they can be affecting respiratory, GI tract, and obviously the mouth itself. So inadequate saliva can be dry mouth, inadequate tears can be dry eyes. Inadequate mucus production can be airways or the esophagus. So a word that we use often in dietetics is xerostomia. Now, xerostomia is essentially reducing production of saliva in the mouth. So when you think of Sjogren syndrome, you want to think dry mouth or xerostomia. And what happens if you have dry mouth? Well, if you think about it, Saliva helps break down food. It makes it easier for you to chew food because you have that saliva that can help you break down food. And also, when you're swallowing food, you've had that saliva, which has helped break down the food, which it makes it easier for you to swallow. So when you think of Sjogren syndrome, think, I have a dry mouth. Why do I have a dry mouth? Well, it's because I have an autoimmune disorder and my body is attacking the glands that produce moisture or produce saliva. As a result, I'm going to have dry mouth and I'm going to have difficulty chewing and swallowing food.